I think they've made the biggest financial mess that any government's ever made in this country for a very long time. And socialist governments traditionally do make a financial mess. They always run out of other people's money.
That was Margaret Thatcher on Labour and Socialism. The economic situation this country now faces is like that faced by Thatcher in 1979, but probably worse. Now more than ever, we need a strong opposition to challenge the government. A week is a long time in politics, and Todd Muller has just found out that the academic exercise of being leader of the opposition is nothing at all like the reality of it. I analyse him, his team, and the problems I can see for National that we've been able to glimpse from Muller's first week in the job. Then I will explain why it is that we're about to see who's been swimming with no togs on as the economic swimming pool gets drained, which is all very difficult. But what are we going to do about the carnage? Very difficult choices are going to need to be made, but are Labour or National up to it? I'm Cam Slater, and this is Insight Politics. Todd Muller has had a week from hell. It appears that he and his team had no plan other than to roll Simon Bridges. That became apparent in a string of interviews with Jack Tame, John Campbell, Ryan Bridge and Radio New Zealand. They all ended in a lot of huff and puff, but scant detail on what would be different from a Todd Muller-led National Party. Muller trotted out nothing more than glib corporate speak bumper sticker slogans. It was shallow, and it showed. My analysis of all the video is that we have another David Shearer on our hands, but without the dead fish. He is so ponderous in his thinking you can see the hamster in the wheel. One Twitter commentator likened it to a toy monkey with cymbals. Like Shearer, Muller's problem is his ability to sort out all the noise in his head before answering. This leads to grating silences, stumbles over easy phrases, and forgetting simple things like his past job titles. The team surrounding him are a major concern. For a start, we have Michelle Bogue and Murray McCully pulling the strings with both him and Nikki Kay. In the background, there are a few dark arts practitioners, but they're the ones who disappeared under John Key but have come roaring to the fore with Muller and Kay. They also have deep links to Bill English. Hamish Price has darkened his Twitter account, a surefire sign he's working again in an official capacity. He previously went dark when working for Todd McClay in his ministerial office. He marshals the National's troll army, either unofficially or previously with the tacit approval of Simon Bridges. Tim Hurdle and Megan Campbell are long-time ex-staffers. Hurdle last worked in government from Jerry Brownlee's office, and we all saw how close Brownlee was to the Muller coup. Campbell has worked as a lobbyist on the quiet and also for National's pollster, Courier. Many of those surrounding Muller and Kay are actually Nikki Kay people who chipped in to help get someone with the thinnest of CVs and a less-than-average political career get selected. And I know this because I was one of them. Most were researchers under Bill English in 2002, including Nikki Kay, and are very fond friends of Roger Sowry, both former Brat Pack members now long since departed from Parliament. Chris Bishop and Tim Hurdle are both former staffers of Jerry Brownlee. The two younger members of the leadership team are Chris Bishop and Nicola Willis. They are both like Jordan Williams in many respects, as are most people who are champion debaters. They think they can talk their way into or out of anything. But what they can't cope with is when someone holds them up against the wall by the throat or punches them in the face. Chris Bishop is vainglorious, and a case in point is his promising to bring back his mullet if they win. Note he said if, not when. Amy Adams is a lightweight, yet Muller has dragged her back from a deserved retirement and given her a monumental task, developing policy and economic response plans for the damage the Chinese virus has caused. Given that she never completed one alternative budget in her very short time as finance spokesperson, I'm buggered if I can see how she'll even attempt to do this. The only things that have her name attached to them as achievements were largely the work of others. The first policy announcement was nothing but corporate welfare, and worse, they were promising to spend money the government won't have. Margaret Thatcher was right when she said the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money to spend, and that is National's problem. They either have to outspend Labour and create an avalanche of debt, or convince voters that they aren't as bad a type of socialist spendthrift party than Labour. And as I've said before, saying that National is just like Labour but less shit isn't a winning election policy. Policy is going to be their biggest issue, not a lack of it. Rather, they'll develop hundreds of mostly crap policies to out-policy Labour. And how do I know that? Well, the people surrounding Todd Muller were all there in 2002 when Bill English, their mentor, delivered several hundred policy statements. They all worked on them. They all talk fondly of those halcyon days of 20.9%, and now they're going to do it all again. The small bounce they'll receive from axing Bridges and Bennett will be short-lived, but they don't have a plan. They'll produce hundreds of policies, but achieve that which Bill English did, a stonking great loss. The economy is rooted, but they don't have any plan other than corporate welfare. How rooted is the economy? Many people have taken the lockdown as an extended extra holiday, and many still do. The only people calling for extensions of the lockdown are those in cushy state-funded jobs. We're all swimming in the economic pool, but very shortly when the plug is pulled, we're going to see who's been swimming with no togs on. April's job losses were 37,500. We haven't yet seen May's. It will be truly awful. The government has shown they don't understand cash flow. Cash flow is what keeps most companies in New Zealand afloat, and it sure as hell isn't their asset base. The wage subsidy wasn't business cash flow assistance, it was worker assistance. Come June 10, when the first payments run out, the job losses are going to be massive. The extended wage subsidy won't help because the subsidy doesn't help with the real problem, and that is the lack of cash flow. The economy fell off a cliff, and it is barely going now. When cash flow stops, then everything supported by that cash flow stops also. Business owners have sold down stock and not replenished that stock in order to survive, and so they're now pinched even more. They have no stock left, no cash left, and no cash flow left, and if their business is to return, they need all three. All the wage subsidies have done is kid businesses into a false hope. They're going broke, but slightly less quickly. But they're going broke nonetheless. The things that are supported by that cash flow are vast. Rents on business premises, power, water, suppliers, wages, borrowings for the business, the owner's mortgage payments, the boat, the cars, the beach house, everything. When the cash flow stops and the missus is also unemployed, then there'll be carnage. Right now people, mostly women, I might add, are thinking that Jacinda saved them. But when it all comes crashing down and there is nothing left, then they're going to start asking if their sacrifice was worth it. But it's not fast enough for National. The damage won't truly hit home until after the election. By that time, Labour will have won. No amount of government subsidies will then be able to buy off the media. The arse will drop out of the car market. House prices are going to get a massive haircut. And number two, probably, liquidators will be busy, but for not much return, as assets will be flooding the market and prices will be depressed. So what do we do? Right now the government is borrowing like hell to keep it all running. But as you know in your own household, that can only be done for so long, and then the cost savings have to be found. All the nice things have to be gutted. All the nice things need to be gutted. The government must focus on important things. Funding rich students for their first year of university isn't a must-have. Neither is the Royal New Zealand Ballet or the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. No one can justify $300 a seat subsidies in good times, much less now. Forget payments for the fraudulent Paris Accord or stupid carbon taxes, or jacking up the minimum wages time and time again. And why has this government chucked a $50 million lifeline to legacy and failing media? The good times are over. All the talk of shovel-ready projects are nothing but trite bumper sticker slogans from the 1930s. We don't have hordes of people using shovels to build things these days. We have multinational conglomerates with diggers and bulldozers. Hiring staff is problematic with induction safety courses, expensive PPE, artificially high wage floors, ACC, PAYE, it goes on and on. Shovel-ready means huge dollars poured into large civil infrastructure companies whose shareholders will be the only beneficiaries. There are heaps of spending items that could be axed from the budget that even a half-smart suburban accountant's office could find working half days. Hard decisions need to be made. I'm not sure the government has the stones to reset the economy, and neither does National. There are dark days ahead, and we need to do something. Now it's time for some of your questions. I received the following questions in my inbox. The first one is about Jamie Lee Ross. Your loyalty to Ross, I don't quite understand that. I feel for his personal situation, but from my point of view, I saw someone climbing the ladder that found himself not accepting of the ethics around him, and if what I have been seeing rightly so. He got in too deep and saw his only way out by slinging mud. But he had as much mud in his own corner, and that public outing exacerbated everything. Why didn't he step out early? And as I have, not politically but in business, it cost me but not my integrity. So you must have more on Ross than that we don't know. Well, it's simple. Jamie Lee Ross is a mate. In my world, you don't abandon mates, no matter what is perceived that they have done. In any case, no one deserved to be framed and set up and driven to despair like what Paula Bennett orchestrated. You may not understand loyalty like I do, but I live and breathe it. You don't go dog on your mates. When they're in trouble, you don't run, you help them. Second question I received. I can see you were boycotted by Key and then the National Party, but I have no idea why. I know there is bitter undercurrents with your family and the National Party, and at the end of the day, I'm likely to support your point of view, but why is there such a bitter opposition? What is their point of view? Well, John Key was a user. He willingly used me and my skills, and then instead of standing tall and saying, "So what?" to Nicky Hager and the left wing, he cut and run. No loyalty. The coward couldn't even give me a call. Instead, he rang my father and asked him to pass on a message to me. That message was, no hard feelings. Well, he's gone. His legacy's not that good, and I'm still here. So, no hard feelings, John. Bill English and Michelle Bogue are the ones who have really held a grudge. Again, family comes first, like loyalty. I know that Bill English personally drew a line through my father's name when it came to awarding honours. It was only the personal intervention of 2 MPs that saw my father finally awarded an ONZM for his lifetime of service. But they had to have a quiet, private, unofficial service for it, as my mother lay dying in the hospice. The official announcement wouldn't be for some months, and she was never going to make it that far. Those 2 politicians came to the hospice to tell my mother of Dad's award. John Key never bothered. But it was also John Key who became an MP because my old man recruited him. And he just let Bill English draw a line through my old man's name year after year after year. Michelle Bogue is a malign influence on New Zealand politics. It's all about what's good for her. When my father became president of National, she was the first person into his office at National Party headquarters which was then on Willis Street in Wellington. Not to congratulate him. No, she had in fact backed the person Dad defeated. No, she was there to deliver 4 pages of A4 with names and positions for my father to arrange government appointments with the Prime Minister. He refused and threw them in the bin. We've been attacked and maligned by Bill English, his cronies, and Michelle Bogue, not for what we did, but for what we refused to do. We're incorruptible, and for that we've been punished. So forgive me if there isn't much I like about the National Party that is as far as from their core principles at any time since formation. Todd Muller is surrounded by experts and smart people, but it appears none of them was smart enough to spend the 6 weeks of lockdown developing a plan to rescue New Zealand. No, instead these legends in their own lunchtime hatched a plan to destroy Simon Bridges and Paula Bennett once a public poll matched their very secret internal polls. Once that happened, it was over very quickly for Simon Bridges, but it then exposed their plotting for all its shallowness. The much-vaunted corporate warrior turned out to have not much more depth than a Matthew Hooton-drafted speech. The media exposed him with very simple questioning, and now much of his caucus are sitting heavy heads in their hands, wondering just what they'd done. In just 92 days, the polls open, and it appears that the brains trust in National thinks a winning proposition is to say that National isn't quite as shit as Labour. Sure, the economy is going to tank, but we aren't going to see that in all of its dreadfulness until after the election. Labour will attempt to soften the crash of the economy, but crash it will. When it does, then the government is going to have to answer some very heavy questions. The problem is that National's caucus sat on their hands so long that they caused permanent damage to their chances. The country is going to need a strong opposition. Sadly, I don't think they will get one. Don't forget to email any questions you might want answered. You can ask me more questions by emailing questions@thebfd.co.nz. Thanks for listening. I'm Cam Slater, and this was Insight Politics.